gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, we're eternally grateful he's back, Sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
Oh, I am. Thank you.
And I'd make another Eternals joke, but I forgot most of the movie. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear. The Eternals, more like externals. Am I right?
Yes, indeed.
Take that. Took them down a notch, Leslie.
Showed them what to do with their top of the box office here and everything. That's right, everybody. This week we're talking about Eternals. I think they have to do properly Eternals, so when we can wait in 10 years when the reboot comes in and call it The Eternals.
The Eternals.
Because, hey, sometimes these days it doesn't even take 10 years to do that. All of a sudden it's like, no, this is just Suicide Squad proper. No, this is The Suicide Squad.
Well, this isn't a thing. This isn't a deal, though, where they, like they're worried that they're going to lose the property if they don't make a movie every couple years. Like Disney's got this at this point. Like they're not going anywhere.
So it was, despite a whole bunch of thoughts and that this movie was going to tank and everything, it seemed to have done pretty well, even with reviews being more positive in the listener or regular viewer, mortals, as opposed to the critics over there who are among us all and who actually didn't necessarily like this movie. We'll see which one we
Disney forgot to send the payments this time.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's always the best. It was just like, what are you just paying? That's Disney coming through. First of all, if they paid these bloggers $10, that would be their rent would go up 300% because those cats don't make any money.
I'm just going to say I won't blame any of the critics if they thought this was a Warner Brothers picture. Ooh, take that, Eternals.
Yowza.
We'll get into all of that.
Leslie's coming for you.
Before we do all that, we do want to say a thank you to those who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support. I get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and get to vote on a movie that we watch each month. Since this is the start of the new month, technically we're kind of a day behind. We recorded on the 31st last week. So today, we're back at the new one. So coming in at that $40 level, a level that's becoming more and more popular, and that means the world over here. This month we have Derek, Maria, Matt, and Tim. You guys are absolutely amazing coming in at that $40 level.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Not to mention, coming close on their heels, we have Alex, Brian, Jessica, and Nate all coming in at that $20 level. Again, just too awesome for you guys. And no one wants to even say anything because we've left it open. If at any time you guys just want to, shout out something, say anything, we're open for it. But you guys are just like, we want to support the show. And that's it's amazing. And, of course, we can't forget the backbone of this whole thing. The $5 level is our most popular level. And, of course, we want to thank all of you guys as well. But on our Patreon, doesn't matter what level you actually support at. You get everything. Like I said, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And we're going to do another Zoom hangout not too awful long. And I want on the Patreon page, you guys just kind of talk about it. See what, discuss it amongst yourselves. That's one of the nice part about the Patreon, too, is that everybody's just, pretty nice to each other and everything. Everybody's very cool.
Yes.
So you guys kind of discuss, when would be the best time, and we'll kind of make something like that happen because it's fun to see you guys and kind of talk and answer questions and just play stupid games and do all kinds of stuff. Bruce has been there a couple times, and Sean says if we can get him not busy, that's tough to do though. But we'll see.
Yeah, these days that's a tough ask.
Busy season, but we'll.
How are you at 9:30 a.m. on Monday?
Just footloose and fancy free, doing a little nothing.
That has been a no for my entire adult life.
He's just wearing himself a big old robe and getting up a cup of coffee and just
I wish I was. I wish. I had been working for 3.5 hours at that point.
Are you available at noon on Thanksgiving Day?
that would be an easier grab for me, quite honestly.
So just think about it like this, guys. If this show didn't show up in your podcast app of choice, newpodcastapps.com, by the way, if HMP wasn't there, what would you pay to get us back for that month? Whatever that number is for you, join up at Patreon at that level. Support independent content made by people that are more like you than the corporate people out there. So if you ever hear ads on this show, just know that they paid us a lot of money because that's not something we really want to do anymore.
That's how ads work, Adam.
No, no. But see, that's the thing. People have asked us to do stuff and they offer nothing. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to do that because we've had that. We've had to shield
Not
things.
Everybody's got that Manscaped money to throw at us.
It's true, but not like I said. It doesn't always turn out well. So, and we think more of you guys than that. We don't want to waste your time with a whole bunch of things that you don't care about. So that's why we rely on you, but support at whatever level you feel is right. This week, we have joining into the HMP family, Nick Snyder coming in at the $2 level. Sean, what nickname do we have for Nick?
So, Nick, you know this already if you've ever done a Google search on your name. There is a pitcher. The most famous Nick Snyder is a pitcher who pitches for the Texas Rangers. And, you know, you're probably, every time you try to Google yourself, you're probably not super happy that you see that. Then under there, you got a male model named Nick Snyder. You know, he's got you by the Google count. And I mean, I'm sure you're a very handsome man, but are you male model handsome?
Few of us are.
Probably not. And then there is a musician named Nick Snyder, and he has his own band. And this is where your nickname is going to come from this week. So, Nick, you probably know this already, that there's a musician named Nick Snyder. But what you probably don't know is that there is a band called Nick Snyder and the Real Deal. And so your HMP nickname, Nick Snyder, from this point forward is the Real Deal.
All right. The Real Deal. So we'll put that in our notes here and everything. So
it would have been great if you went through all that and came up with Nick, not a model, Snyder. Not male model, handsome Snyder. That's his nickname.
Not so model handsome.
Handsome, but not male model handsome.
Yeah.
That's your nickname.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as easily. So we have the Real Deal there as opposed to that. So that's good. So if you would like to vote on what we watch, get the pre-show, post-show Dinger Zone, and get your nickname.
And if Evander Holyfield comes looking for you, you're on your own, buddy.
You got to take that up with him. If you want to get a nickname and all that stuff, head on over to patreon.com/HMP and join up today at any rate. And of course, review us on iTunes and all that kind of good stuff. If you can't, follow us on YouTube if you're away from your podcatching device. And we don't really promote the YouTube, but like the majority of our shows go up there unless they get copyright claimed, which happens from time to time because I have fun with music, but who cares? But if you want to see that, go over to just look up Here Movie Podcast on YouTube. We got a whole bunch of subscribers and stuff over there, so thanks for that, guys. Let's get into it then. Here is the trailer for Eternals.
5 years ago, Thanos erased half of the population of the universe. But the people of this planet brought everyone back with a snap of a finger. The sudden return of the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin.
How long do we have?
7 days.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
We need to find the others.
I haven't seen some of them for centuries.
Hi.
Hello.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
You can't protect. Any of them.
perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium?
Fall collection. IKEA.
That was the trailer for Eternals, directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao. It's the latest in the MCU, but I'd bet there's really good odds that few people that went into the theater this weekend had any idea who the Eternals are. But you know what? I think I know a guy that can fill us in.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got?
So I've talked about it before, but in 1970, Jack Kirby got fed up with Marvel and went to DC. He was able to be his own writer, artist, and editor, and he created the Fourth World. Now, it probably won't shock you to hear this, but DC didn't really treat Jack Kirby any better than Marvel did. Heck, they didn't even let him finish his Fourth World saga before they canceled it. This didn't sit well with Kirby, but what's a guy to do? In the 1970s, there were only 2 games in town, and neither one seemed to play fairly. Well, around 1976, Marvel lured Kirby back by saying they wanted him to fulfill his vision of the new gods at Marvel, and they promised to let him finish the saga. Now, here's a spoiler. They didn't. But when Jack started working on his new Gods project, they wanted to call it Return of the Gods. But the legal department was worried about legal problems, and the name was briefly changed to the Celestials before settling on the Eternals. DC's new gods were the aliens that replaced Thor and Odin and Loki after Ragnarok, but the Eternals, not wanting to be the exact same thing, was about the aliens who inspired Greek and Babylonian mythology and also maybe Egyptian and maybe some other pantheons as well. There really were a whole lot of Eternals. Also, Sprite was the inspiration for Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream, who was in turn the inspiration for Puck of Alpha Flight fame, so time really is just a big flat circle. And Hyperion from the Squadron Supreme, he's an Eternal, but not from Earth 616. He's the last Eternal from Earth 712. So their loss, I guess? I don't know. But as I said before, Jack Kirby's journey into creating and exploring a new pantheon was cut short by Marvel, just as it had been at DC. The eternal new gods didn't lie dormant forever, though, because in 1985, Peter B. Gillis began writing a new Eternals miniseries until the mad slapper himself, Jim Shooter, fired Gillis from the title and gave it to good old dependable Walt Mr. Wheezy Simonson. As you can imagine, changing writers in the middle of a miniseries led to it being a little uneven. But the Eternals really got a chance to shine when Mr. Sandman, Neil Gaiman himself, wrote, and John, I Could Still Draw a Little Bit in 2006, Romita Jr. illustrated an Eternals miniseries that brought the late Bronze Age characters into the modern era. This Eternals miniseries was so good that Marvel immediately set into motion a 15-year plan that involved being purchased by Disney, releasing the highest-grossing film of all time in a global pandemic just to get it a cinematic release. Wow, that Neil Gaiman really is something. And speaking of something, Adam, do you have a list for us this week?
Indeed, if that comic book connection wasn't enough for you, let me sell everybody on this next chapter in the MCU, because this movie has everything. Like I said, we've got Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao. We've got 2-time Oscar winner Angelina Jolie. Oscar nominees Selma Hayek and Kumail Nanjiani. 2-time BAFTA nominee Barry Keoghan. We got two 2-time Primetime Emmy-nominated actors in Brian Tyree Henry and Kit Harington. We've got sword-fighting, fist-punching, table-smashing, ship-raising, laser fingers, laser eyes, dead ghost eyes, tentacle stuff, and a 2.5-hour running time with a movie with a Disney Plus size story. This movie has everything, and maybe that's to its detriment.
Oh.
So before we start, we should say that there's spoilers from this point forward. Because when it comes to the new Marvel movies, like if you're gonna listen, like,
yeah,
just know
ahead of time, because we kind of go through everything here. So chances are, if you've seen this, according to the box office, a good many of them have, or at least may want to know what's kind of going on here. But there will be spoilers from here on out, just so you know.
So Bruce, let me ask you just overall question here.
Yeah.
How much of the Eternals had you read?
Oh, as close to zero as I can imagine.
Yeah, me too. I had never read an Eternals comic book ever. I still have not. This is my first introduction to these characters. And so, like most other folk, I'm going to imagine I went in completely blind into this movie. And it's the first time in a very long time I went in with very little expectations for this movie. And I think I'm right. You guys were the same way with this one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely did not like the trailer.
Yeah,
I didn't. I think I saw the first trailer maybe once, and that first one is just kind of like one of those nothing sort of trailers that just kind of really is more of a mood and everything. And,
right.
And something that I actually found interesting going back and reading and looking at things later on was how many trailers were not really trailers for the movie, but trailers for the movie, if you will. Not talking about like the cast and the crew and everything, which is great, but like a lot of things didn't sell the movie. It kind of sold the people and the story that was involved, much less the actual movie itself.
I mean, as I said, kind of in the early chatter here when we first started the show here, so many things feel like a Warner Brothers approach, but even a Warner Brothers approach from 10 years ago or 5 years ago at least. Because first off, Warner Brothers, when they were casting their DC movies, they were always about name recognition first. You know, they get Ben Affleck, Will Smith. They hotly pursued Oprah Winfrey to be Amanda Waller, which, you know, that would have been weird in my opinion.
Very weird.
But they're all like investor approach. And then, of course, with the MCU, they were looking at like these pretty good actors that had done stuff, but they weren't box office draws. Even Robert Downey Jr. at the time was kind of like nobody could get him insured for a movie when he was Iron Man. So they took some risks in their casting. Later on they got some more recognizable people, but I just feel like this feels like they got a casting director from Warner Brothers who's like, man, we're going to get all these people whose names you know, even though they don't necessarily work in the same movie in any universe. And some of them do well. Some of them do better than I expected. Some of them I'm like, well, you could have saved some money and got somebody else to do that role. You know, like they weren't able to use everybody to the degree I think they probably paid for. Mm-hmm. The movie feels a little long. They got, I like giving an up and coming director a chance to do something, a director who has their own point of view, a chance to do something. But it really seems like an odd choice to bring the person from Nomadland into the MCU, you know?
Well, at least that's something that has been something Marvel's done a lot, which is get like directors that you wouldn't necessarily believe to be, you know, kind of the right person based upon their previous, you know, material and everything. But then those directors really showing up and, you know, giving you a quality product.
Yeah,
so,
but they've also had a few times where it didn't work out for them too. You know, like the fact that they lost Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
The fact that Favreau was done after 2 and would never do another one. Like, you know, Branagh didn't work out so well. So they've also had some misses with that approach too.
They have. And I'm if it's all right with you guys, I'm going to get into the movie here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know, I was ready after the end of the first act of this movie. I was ready to write it off. Like I was getting ready for my, you know, like my sarcastic takes on this movie. And then midway through the second act, it started growing on me. And it's almost the reverse problem of Marvel, right? Because Marvel movies always start off great, and then they don't have a third act for a lot of the time. You know, the character has the same power set that the hero does. It's, you know, it's a very similar formula. Mm-hmm. But this time it was a completely different problem, because the first act of this movie is so boring. And, you know, and half the cast does not work for this movie. You know, I know that representation is important. And so, you know, your Asian lead, your Asian female lead in this movie is absolutely wrong for this movie. She's not very good at it. I think the dude who plays Robb Stark is terrible. I think that here's a thing, right? So Kit Harington, yes, he gets a lot of acclaim as Jon Snow, and he should. But when he is on screen with Rob Stark in this movie for the few scenes that they have together, it's almost like Rob Stark doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because your eye just immediately goes to Kit Harington. That is a huge problem.
I'm also going to say that it says a lot that I couldn't tell you that actor's name to save my life. Like, I know Kit Harington's name, but I can only refer to this other guy as Rob Stark. I think that says something.
I think it's Richard Madden
going to have a
who we're talking about. I think. I've only...
But I also think it was just a bad call to have those two actors in this movie.
Totally.
It's just too darn distracting. And it's not like Rob Stark is... I mean, come on. You're going to keep Kit Harington.
Yeah.
And Rob Stark, you can replace him. And then that whole character of Icarus and the way they decided, because that character could have been portrayed differently. Like, this isn't something where they had to be ultra faithful to the comics.
Right.
And I just think it's too hot on the heels to Homelander and Omni-Man.
I was about to say, does anyone feel like it did have a very much a feel for, especially Homelander with the design of the outfit. It's like, it seems like it could be his cousin.
Yeah. Or like Invincible. I mean, having Omni-Man, or not Omni-Man, the Immortal, whatever his name is, that character in Invincible. Like, it's a very similar costume. And then on top of that, you have two very well-known people from the same show, and then you also have a character who's like a little girl who's a badass. Like, that is yet another problem. It just reminds you of the other thing.
Thank goodness this movie wasn't made 4 years ago, because they probably would have tried to cast Maisie Williams if this was
for sure.
4 years.
Yes,
she was tied up in New Mutants for like a decade. So
right.
But the whole time I'm watching this, I do want to talk about the little girl who plays Sprite.
Yes.
She's like 16, I think now, probably 15 or 14 when they're filming this. Mm-hmm. I thought she was pretty awesome. I'm sitting here saying she's playing a character who is supposed to be thousands of years old. So either she has to die or she has to go away. And my favorite part, well, I won't say my favorite part of the movie, but one of the most encouraging parts of the movie cannot exist beyond this movie. Like there is no way that actor could show up today and play that character, because we've essentially got like a 14-year-old girl version of John Constantine, and I'm loving every minute of that, because I know I've got my soft spot for those like killer kids, and she seems like one of those.
And there are people who are cast really well. Like, I was very surprised by Angelina Jolie in this movie. She is terrific in this role. Yes. I did not expect her to be so. I expected her to be the most cloying part of this movie, and she's not.
She really is showing that she...
They smartly, I'm saying smartly, like I know what she could or couldn't do, but they do give her a role that allows her to be not in this front and center for a good part of the movie.
Yes.
She's showing us why, like, she has been a very steady and really fantastic actor for a long time. Doesn't always pick the best of things to go into, but like when she's really giving it, she is an amazing actress. She just is.
And she's a beautiful lady, but she never just got by on her looks.
No, not at all. And many times she would ugly herself up for some things and stuff. But I think she's great. And
then also Salma Hayek. I don't know the last time I've really seen her in a movie, because I'm sure she makes plenty of movies, but they're not superhero movies. They're not sci-fi, so I'm not checking them out.
Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife was the last big thing, and let me tell you,
that's 2021. I mean, it's not a long time ago.
I didn't watch that though, so I haven't seen her in a while, is what I'm saying. Like the last time I saw her were reruns of 30 Rock, and I got to say, she delivered more than I was expecting from her.
Yes.
There's a lot of things I like about Salma Hayek, seeing this performance, and also seeing the fact, like, especially having her share the screen with Angelina Jolie. It's nice to see like the person who's growing old gracefully, like I am. She's definitely not getting tons of work done. She's got the right kind of beautiful for I really, really was impressed that she was who she was in this movie. And I was kind of bummed that they took her out of it so early, but because of the structure of the film, her character was still there, even though they died early on.
The report is that when they asked her for if she wanted to read for this Marvel role, her thought was, oh, they're going to have me play like somebody's grandma or something like that. And they were like, no, not quite. Not quite.
I mean, she is still working a lot. Like one of the trailers of that I got at the beginning of my movie was the House of Gucci, and she's in that.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, I saw that trailer and didn't even recognize her in that because everybody looks unrecognizable in that trailer in a good way.
And
other than Adam Driver, you're not going to miss that.
The
guy.
best part about that is like because we've just had a crappy Ridley Scott film, now we're going to get a good Ridley Scott film because it goes in those waves. Ridley Scott is an ebbs and flower,
not
baby.
to derail it, but is Jared Leto in that House of Gucci movie?
Yes, he is.
He looks great,
unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Unrecognizable.
I'm down for it. Like that's the kind of crazy Jared Leto performance I want to see.
Well,
should have been the Penguin, not the Joker. I'll just leave it at that.
Same thing, same deal.
He's doing the thing again where like, I know that I am far too handsome. So I am going to ugly it up for everybody just to make it okay for everybody in the room.
Now we're all on even playing field.
Yes.
I had to make the decision to do that about 12 years ago. My life's been so much easier.
Well, I've seen pictures from them. You didn't really need to do a lot.
Oh.
But to get back to the movie here, like, I think that we're on the right path talking about the things that we like about the movie, because there is a bunch to recommend it. Like, I don't know if you guys I don't know how you saw this movie, but I saw it in a pretty packed theater last night in Atlanta here. And it was a mixed audience, a pretty good mix of audience. And when that on-screen kiss happens, the big one, the controversial one, the first reaction was I heard a lot of groans. And then after the groans, I heard a lot of applause.
So now the way that I heard about that kiss, was that in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, I don't remember one other Middle Eastern country that banned the movie. They didn't know that kiss was in there till opening night, and then after the first show, they shut it all down.
Oh wow!
And I'm wondering if not only was it two men kissing, which of course some countries still haven't broadened the horizons to the full spectrum of human existence. But I wonder if it sort of really got him hot under the collar because it was a Emirati-born Lebanese actor that was the man he kissed.
I mean, it's just the kiss period. I'm sure the cherry on top is the fact that he's one of them. But I mean, it's just this sounds so ridiculous to be having this conversation, but I mean, representation is important.
But here's the big deal. This is the first time Disney didn't just say, "Oh, well, this side character, when you weren't looking, he was kissing another."
And that's what I'm
front and center. And
that's what I'm trying to get to here. Like, I can't wait for the day where you see something like this in a movie and it's not a big deal. Like, I can't wait for that day. But so to have this happen in a movie this late in the game, like especially something that is representative of someone who is watching these movies when they're like a kid and having a tough time trying to figure out who they are. Like this is an important moment here, but I honestly can't wait to the day where we jump cut to. Like, that guy's gay.
Here's the problem that I had. It's not with that, but with the follow-up kind of sex scene where it's like, why is this in this film? It doesn't need to be there. Like, when you fade to black, we all just put together in our heads what was going to happen after the fade to black. And then we have to fade up and then see this smoochy smoochy, I love you. And it's like, why have that to be in the film? Like, it doesn't really in a movie that is PG-13, that is ultimately, slated towards a younger audience and everything. Why put a gratuitous sex scene in this? It's not graphic or anything, but it doesn't need to be there. There's nothing that ends
only
the
needs
story.
to be there if it's like
nothing.
if it's like MacGruber style, where you're taking the air out of it.
Right.
Yeah. You're like, when you fade to back, you picture this beautiful thing. Guess what? They do it just as ugly as you do.
But to me, it was just like, this. I don't know that this belongs in that film. The other stuff, fine. Who cares? Whatever. And you're right. It'll be better the day when we don't treat it as a special thing. But like, I don't care who it is. Have this weird 8-second. Well, it's not even that long. It's probably a little bit longer than that. But 10 to 15. For all intents and purposes, sex scene in this Marvel movie made for children is a little strange to me.
Agreed. Totally.
I don't care who they are.
I totally agree. I had way more problems with that. I also had way more problems with the fact that it's two people are just doing a terrible job.
Yeah, and you exactly
That's
the other part that you don't want to talk about. It's called the acting in those scenes. Not super great. It's just not.
No. And it's kind of a bummer because there's a lot of people putting together a really strong performance. Camille is awesome in this movie.
Yeah, Camille's actually I thought he was going to be cloying. To bring up another one, but no, he was really good. I thought the timing was good. I love there's been several generations of this same actor that all look the same. And when you think about things like the Barrymores and stuff, it's like that's a real thing,
It's pretty good.
I love that. I thought that was great. I thought the dance number was really good. I thought his buddy Karun is the most hilarious.
Karun is literally the only laugh out loud moment I had.
He's the best guy in the whole movie. I love it.
He is great.
The only time I laughed out loud is when he goes, "Did you get that?" And way off screen in the very distance, you hear, "I did, sir."
I was impressed with his number of cameras. The guy understands the assignment.
That part's pretty great. I really, I enjoy. Like, I really do like that character too, and
I like him. I looked and he has a long career. He has been acting, but he really feels like someone who's not an actor. That they liked him and put him on the screen because he really
he's naturalistic.
Has that out of place feeling, but that means he's a great actor to feel so like not an actor in it.
What I would love to see is a little side story with that character, with the with the 40s Jarvis, and and with the character with Wong. That's what I want to see. I want to see that those three guys team up.
Now, they did at one point ask him if he was like Alfred from Batman, and then they also refer to Icarus as Superman. And we call you Clark now. How did you guys feel about the DC name dropping? That was kind of weird to me.
I think it's weird that Superman exists in Marvel.
Yes. Yeah,
it's very strange.
And it's never been mentioned in any of the previous 27 films. And you'd think it would be the kind of pop culture phenomenon that you might say to a real life superhero.
And I don't understand. You have hundreds of characters that you can draw from with Marvel. Yeah. Why aren't you using one of their names?
And watching this, I kind of got a Squadron Supreme vibe. Like they kind of felt Justice League, like Justice League reimagined. Yeah, and then the movie's a little bit overly long for the story it has to tell, has a little DC feel to it that way. They tend to, like, Marvel makes long movies, like Endgame is a very long movie, but it's got a reason to be very long.
Yes.
This felt more like a Scott Snyder very long movie. You're like, wow, Aquaman really was 2.5 hours long, you say.
Yes. And there's a lot of
and I don't know, because sometimes you may not know this about me, Sean, but sometimes I'll bear trap on an idea.
What?
Explain.
And once I started thinking wow, this feels a little bit more like a Warner Brothers superhero movie than a Disney one. I'm even thinking just the color scheme, the cinematography, it just looks more Warner Brothers scheme to me. And I don't know if that's just like me convincing myself, but dropping the names of the DC characters didn't help me get out of that idea that, wow, this feels like the most. And I like plenty of DC movies, but they just feel very different from Marvel movies. They only make $700 million instead of $1 billion.
Well, and your idea here, one of the things that really makes it feel like a DC movie to me also is that you can tell while watching this movie that they're thinking about things visually, like, oh, that'd be a really great moment to have in this. Yeah. Which you don't really feel a lot in Marvel movies. That's more of a DC movie thing. Like, I am absolutely certain in every iteration of what this movie was going to be from the get-go is them being lit up and hovering over a beach. I am certain that is in every single incarnation of along the way of this movie that never left, because it is an incredibly strong, very striking, very cool looking visual. And yes, it does work, but it's also something that it's the first thing I thought of when I saw the scene. I was like, oh
yeah, started there and reverse engineered it.
This is on a storyboard over and over and over again. This scene,
And
here.
then just like compare that flying monolith that they call a spaceship to any of the spaceships from Guardians of the Galaxy,
Right.
or any of the Chitauri vessels. It's just so different. And the whole time I'm watching this, one thing I'm like trying to ask myself is, when they do the next big Marvel movie, like which ones of these characters could possibly show up in a new Avengers movie? Like,
Well,
I'm just not seeing it.
There's a few though that I would enjoy seeing. I just don't want to see them as superheroes anymore. You know, I don't want to see them in their gear. I would love for there to be a Hannibal Lecter style thing where like, or to make it more Marvel-y, like Tony Stark after the snap, where people walk up to him in his little cabin and they're like, "Hey, can we have 5 minutes with you?" And he's like, "No, I'm busy." Like that kind of thing is awesome for these characters. I would love to see, Camille Nanjiani again. I'd love to see that character not be Kingo or Kingu, whatever his name.
Kingo,
It's such that's another thing too. Is the names are so awful.
The names are awful.
Well, those Jack Kirby was great at drawing.
I know.
But he came up with his names like a drunken hobo.
He sure did. And they're terrible. But, it's the reason why we're calling them by their actor names or other performances and not their eternal
He created
names.
that famous character, Rob Stark, because I don't even want to call him Icarus with a K.
It's got a K in it.
Can I tell you the best thing about the comic book origin of Icarus?
Please.
He's actually Daedalus. There you go. No follow-up questions will be entertained. But he's actually Daedalus, but they call him Icarus.
Egg on my face, I'll tell you that much.
So, I really was ready to write this thing off. And then when they start tracking down the other Eternals, and so it's not just all Rob Stark and pretty Asian lady, like
Give him a
more.
chance.
Yes, more people are coming into the fold here. And that is where things start getting interesting. Like the dude from Atlanta being in this movie. Like, I don't find his laugh lines funny, but I do like that character.
I like that guy. Is that where I know him from? Like, he's one of those guys. He's like, I feel like I know that guy, but
well, he was in the last Godzilla movies, one of the podcasts.
Oh, that's right. He was the podcaster, right?
Yeah.
That wanted to collect all the bleach or something. Yes. Yeah. I knew that I liked him in that too, I think. But I like that guy a lot. Like, I was feeling like maybe I had seen him in a horror movie or something, but it was Godzilla. Okay.
I like him a lot as an actor. I don't particularly care for him here. I don't know that he does anything special or interesting. It felt like they were really hamstrunging this very funny actor and not letting him kind of. It felt like he needed space to move, and like
for sure
he's got a couple of laugh lines in there, but like you said,
they're not funny laugh lines.
They're not great.
Yeah,
you heard one in the trailer. It's like, oh, it's IKEA. Like, and it got like a light chuckle in the room, but like, no.
Yeah, I like the character because I like having a character that's a builder, and that's like having that explanation for their tech. That part's great. I think that there needs to be more of that, especially now that Tony Stark isn't around anymore. You can't just say, "Oh, that's Stark tech." Like that doesn't work anymore in the Marvel universe. So you need a new thing. So having him around later is probably a smart deal. And I do think. My favorite two characters we haven't even spoken about yet. I mean, the speedster and dude from American Animals are just they're such good characters.
And I was holding those back because those two were my favorite performances for
Me too.
a couple of different reasons. Now, the first thing I want to say is, can you imagine how different Y the Last Man could have been? I mean, I'm sitting here watching this, like take even acting ability out of it. Just this guy has that sort of look that I think York needs. He's not male model handsome, to quote a friend of mine. So just the look alone, take the acting ability out of it. And then you give him this really cool character, Druig. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's Druig. Yeah, it's like Druid with a G, Druig. But he's like,
lame.
Is he evil or is he good?
But that's what makes it great. That's what makes it great.
Exactly. And
he's a bad guy working for the good guys.
And he can absolutely pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that character. I liked the way he was out. He had his own slave army when they showed up to try to get him. I mean, just a lot of cool stuff with that guy. And then to give him the sort of love story with who seems like the most noble, straightforward, innocent of the character, who's Makari, who's a male in the comics, the speedster. Yeah, she's cool, man. I really like that actor playing that role, who played Marlee Matlin's role in Children of a Lesser God on Broadway. And it was a cool story because I read about her. Like when they were doing the revival, she was brought in to be a like tutor, like an American Sign Language tutor, and to help instruct the actors on how to be deaf. And then the director was like, you know what? She's actually perfect for the role.
It's like, wait a minute. She's awful good looking, isn't she? Let's put her in this.
So she's hearing impaired in real life.
Yes, in real life, she's hearing impaired.
I would not have guessed that.
This is going to knock your socks off because I was amazed. She's like 43, 44 years old.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So I'm allowed to say she's hot too because she's age appropriate.
My word.
And she is, man. She's gorgeous.
So what did you guys think of Gilgamesh, a.k.a. One Punch Man?
I'm going to tell you, he gave me the most laughs of anybody.
With what?
I don't know. Maybe just his silly face. Something about him. He gave me the most laughs.
He does have a silly looking face. I like.
I do like the idea that they pair off. Like there's something very clever and nice about that in this movie. Where and having him pair off with Angelina Jolie's character is, but it's kind of special and fun. And you know, again, this is one of those things where we're in the middle of the second act before I start liking this movie. And that is basically the first moment in this movie when you see them together where I legitimately thought to myself, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I don't hate this movie so much.
And it's got a really nice kind of like Greg Rucka's Old Guard, you know, because people are immortals. They have to kind of keep each other company because everybody else dies.
There is a bit of that.
I like how they have folks kind of pairing up and doing their own thing with the outlier of Kingo, who's off on his own. You get the idea that Ajak and Rob Stark, Icarus, kind of stayed in touch pretty closely, like he was for second. And then you got the little girl who can't fit in anywhere. She got ditched by Kingo because he got tired of moving. So she gets taken in by Gemma Chan's character. And I really do like that she's got that Interview with a Vampire little girl who never gets to grow up kind of rage and anger inside of her.
Yeah, me too.
I hated that character.
Also made me think.
Oh, did you really? Did you hate her?
Yeah,
made me think of Monster Girl from Invincible.
Well, we've been talking all show, and Adam hasn't said anything.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't like Sprite. I thought Sprite was probably the most annoying thing of this entire movie. Yeah,
that's so interesting, Adam.
She was like, I wanted to think it was cool. Like I like the out of time, like you said, kind of the vampire thing as well, where it's just like there's no way that I can connect with somebody because I'm 5,000 years old, but I look like a child, so it's going to be difficult for me to navigate life in any way at that point. I like that kind of idea. I don't know why. I just found her wildly annoying. Every time she was on the screen, it just felt like Poochie. She was like Poochie to me.
Oh, really?
She's too much like a young Adam for you. You know, we hate those who remind us of ourselves.
Hey, listen, I'll be the first person to tell you that is often the case with me, where I just go like, "Oh, I hate you. Oh, I hate you because you're me." So that's
Is it the actress? Is it the character itself?
It feels like it might be a little bit of everything. Maybe I don't know,
really?
but for somehow it didn't really strike me, and I wanted to like, but it did not do anything for me. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Oh, that's so interesting.
I thought of all the characters, it would be that character that you would think, that's pretty cool.
I wished. Now, so I want to just a couple other quick little things that just kind of just bug me that I'm like, that actually drew me out of it. Like, Brian Tyree Henry's relationship, I don't buy. This guy has lived for 5,000 years, and this one dude is the guy he gives it away for everything. I'm like, that's a little much, bro. I just don't buy that a 5,000-year-old character would make this deal. I just don't. Like, them pairing up makes sense. Him going, I love this mortal human in the middle of suburbia. It's not like it's anything special. I know.
It's the same thing Jim Chan's doing with Kit Harington.
Yeah, it's also stupid. But I don't care about those characters either. Because again, it's like, well, I'm going to give it up for this milquetoast guy who does nothing in the entire film, not for nothing, but you know.
One of the things that did drive me a little nuts about this movie is that, you know, when you're around older people, like they like to hold on to things for memories, you know, and as I'm getting older, I find that I'm doing the same thing. Like, oh, you know what? I'm going to hold on to this as a keepsake. They have nothing. There's no keepsake anything. Like, even when you're at Ajax little, like, you know, Texas little farmhouse thing, like there's nothing there to show you, oh, she's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of
one character
kind of
does keep stuff around. One character holds on to their memories, and that's Makari, the speedster.
Right. And that part, but like she's like hoarding it almost.
Yeah.
And she's living in the ship. Like, I think that having like each of these characters, I mean, maybe one of them wouldn't, but like for the most part, each of these characters would have keepsakes around, you know, to remind them of something. I mean, just the simple fact that, you know, even the character that you and I love, Bruce, the dude from American Animals, like that guy, there's nothing to show you that guy is 5,000 years old. I mean, there's nothing around you that says that. And he's been there at that little cabin for 2,000 years, right? Like in that little forest thing.
Yeah. Now, I mean, because when we think of number 5,
more like 500, because it was in the Amazon, so it was, you know, during the conquistadors in like the 16th century that he started.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Like number 5 on Umbrella Academy. Like, well, I believe that actor is playing somebody who is in his, you know, like 60s or whatever, because that's how he's playing it. None of these, everyone just feels like they're a young person being themselves and saying, I'm 5,000 years old. How about that?
Well, that dude is also a gift to us all. Like, I mean, the guy who's playing number 5 is,
yeah.
I mean, literally, it seems like he came out an old Jewish guy. Yeah. I mean,
they don't cast just anybody in Nick, and Nikki, or whatever that show was. Nicky, Dickie, and Dawn. What was the name of the show?
Nicky, Dickie, and Dawn.
Proud of myself. I got it.
But it's I don't know. I wish there was that was the biggest thing for me, that the relationships between some of these characters in your 5,000 life year span. This guy that you've met, let's just say it's even been for 20 years. That is such a blink of an eye to a 5,000-year-old that it's insane that you would just be like, I'm giving it all up for this one guy in suburban America.
Oh, and you know, one of the things that I do want to speak to, because I thought that this would be the biggest hurdle of this movie to get over, and actually they did it really deftly, is why aren't they around during all of the rest of the Marvel stuff? And the way that it's not even explained away. It's part of the plot of why they weren't, because they can't, because they don't care enough. Yeah. Like that part is awesome. Like
but they introduced their own plot hole, because actually they did kind of care, because Ajax said it delayed the emergence when the snap happened, because it decreased the population. So Earth was no longer ready for the emergence. So it was after the unsnap that it was back on track for emergence.
But that also fills the hole, because after that happens is when they start caring. Like, oh, wait a minute. We should, because Selma Hayek's character is like, they did this all themselves.
I'll tell you this.
That's amazing.
As a Gears of War fan, the emergence is always the thing that kind of bugged me. Like, I'm sure the Cersei thing bugged a lot of Game of Thrones fans, because it's just like, wait a minute, that's the thing I know from another property.
Oh man, they already had 2 Game of Thrones actresses. If they had Lena Headey as Cersei, that would have been.
Oh my Lord.
Friggin' Peter Dinklage to be Sprite. We got it across the board.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna go all in. You know, that's what I say. If you're gonna do it, just recast all. Just
Sean Bean as Robb Stark.
Hey, throw them all in there. I don't even care.
I want to say something about the movie though. I want to tell you what my biggest disappointment is, because there were some really, really interesting questions here. And I think that this movie was plenty long if they wanted to explore some things. And I don't know much about the director, but just knowing a little bit about what she's done, though I haven't seen it, I get the idea she would be the sort of intellectual thinking director that would want to explore some of these questions. And maybe she was reined in from someone else. But you've got like a question that gets asked by Sprite. If the Celestials could make me any way at all, why would they make me like this, like an eternal child? But then they could also ask, like, why would they make Makari hearing impaired? And they could maybe even ask, like, why would you make somebody that's got a few extra pounds? Why would you make somebody who's middle age instead of prime age, you know? And I think that it would have been really cool to look into that a little bit more and find what that reason is. And they could have actually explored that and used some of this downtime and some of this quiet time for something I would have found more interesting, probably. But they didn't.
Well, and these are all excellent points. And I would imagine that in the story group, you know, back at Marvel HQ, that's probably happening right now. That because they're going to keep using these characters. They're just going to, you know, they are. And so to have, you know, it's probably one of the things that's going to be brought up later, much like Tony's problem being shell shocked after the events in the first Avengers. Like these things are going to come up later because it makes them interesting, quite honestly.
And then they just barely touched on it, and then I feel like kind of shied away from it. But I think there was a stronger debate and a stronger battle to be had about the cost of not letting the Celestial emerge. I feel like they all just kind of like jumped to the conclusion. It kind of makes me think of exceptionalism, you know, that people think my group of people is more important than other groups because we're intrinsically different. It's like this exceptionalism that Earth is more important than the billion other future lives that'll be created. Like, you know, the same reason that you can't cry for a carrot when you eat it is why you can't cry for a planet when it goes down to build a new planet. And I felt like they should have had more of a battle on that instead of making it just so clearly like the heroes save the world, even when they're not heroes from this world.
And I wonder if we're going to keep seeing the stone being that's in the middle of the ocean now.
That was one thing I was wondering. It's like that will be kind of a cool backdrop in future movies if they find themselves in wherever this was at. I don't remember where it was happening at.
I love all the Celestial stuff. It looked really cool. I love the design. I thought they pulled that off really, really well. I'm like, ooh, like it's like stuff like that's getting me more like hype at some point for like, you know, a Silver Surfer kind of a Nova type movie. I'm ready for getting in that world, you know?
I'm kind of bummed that we got a Celestial before we got a proper Galactus.
Yeah.
Because they're going to feel a lot of light.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that'll be also a weird kind of thing is that, you know, you'll get a thing of like, oh, like a group of kids that grows up just going, oh, Galactus, look at this. This is a ripoff of a Celestial over here.
and a little bit of a continuity error because we did get to see Nowhere in the Guardians movies, and Nowhere is the head of a Celestial that people live in like a moon. And it didn't look like the Celestial heads we see here.
Oh, that's a different faction. You know how all that is.
Well, that's very true.
So let's talk about the mid and last credit sequence here.
Yes, because I'm not on a like facial recognition level relationship with Harry Styles, but my son who was with me told me it was Harry Styles.
I knew it was him only because I'd seen him in some stuff, but I'm not like, you know, I don't know that have I seen him in any acting things? I don't know. I'm aware of who he is as the you know, person of culture that he is, or in the culture.
I've seen pictures of him on the news or something.
Yeah, good looking kid.
I had no idea that was Harry Styles till I got home.
But I love the idea of bringing Star Fox into the MCU.
I hate it.
Do a barrel roll.
He belongs in a Guardians movie. I mean, he belongs in a Guardians movie because he's that kind of greasy, sleazy character. But I like it. I also love Pip, so I've been pulling for Pip for years.
And there's also your Patton Oswalt. Like, you know, well, he's not gonna be MODOK anymore, but he's Pip.
Yeah.
I hate Star Fox. This is the thing. These are the Avenger comics that I never bought. You start getting Jack of Hearts in there and Star Fox in there and Black Knight in there. Like, these are the characters I just do not care about at all.
When they cast Jack of Hearts, whenever Paul Rudd's contract is up and they're going to be done with him as Ant-Man, because that's when they bring in Jack of Hearts to kill him, pass the torch to Cassie.
But okay, and what did you? So we in the final. How does this guy? I don't know anything about the Star Fox character. What's that kind of bring about?
Star Fox is Thanos' brother. He's a Titan, just like Thanos, but he is the inspiration for the god Eros, and basically he date rapes people. That's what he does for many years in Marvel Comics. So there you go. So he's a greasy, sleazy bad guy.
And we got the final scene here with Kit Harington opening up a big old thing. And what's inside of there? Is that a sword?
That's the
ebony
sword.
Blade.
Yeah, the cursed sword of the Black Knight. And he was, you know what? Could they have had any less Black Knight in this movie? That's like the one thing that I thought would save the film. And he even starts talking about how he has this complicated family history he's found out about. Then they cut him off, so he can't talk about being derived from the original cursed Black Knight. But yeah, that sword gives him the power of the Black Knight, where he can try to redeem and get the curse off of his family line.
Oh, that old story. Oh, fair enough.
Pretty nice sword, though.
But
who was the voice of the sword? Wasn't it somebody famous?
That's so I was going to hear. I don't even know. That I don't know because that.
No. I know what the voice was. I don't know who the voice of the sword is. But you hear a voice telling him, go ahead, pick it up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I don't think you're ready for that, is what the voice said. Something along those lines.
Did you not know who did that voice, Adam?
Somebody told me yesterday as we were kind of waiting to clean up the theater and stuff, and just goes like, have you heard about who that is? And I was just like, and they go, that's Mahershala Ali's voice.
That's Blade.
That's what I hear.
Blade and Black Knight working together. Oh yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. All right.
So now that I'm on board with it, I'm like, all right. Listen, you put that guy in anything, and I'm down to watch it
because like Black Knight, Black Knight needs to be in other people's movies. Like we don't need a Black Knight movie, but we do need Black Knight. So if he's like helping Blade out, and then maybe next thing you know, he's helping Doctor Strange out, like that character could work great bouncing between other people's movies, kind of like the Hulk. But we do not need a Black Knight movie. That's how I see Kit Harington. I feel like he's a guy that you could just have him show up and stuff, but I don't know that that's going to be the guy that's going to, run your movie, And he's, adorable. He's like 5'4". He's adorable.
Yeah, and
he's married to my cousin, Rose Leslie.
But it is funny looking at him. It's like, oh, I did not realize how tiny this man was. But you see him up against a door frame, and it's like, my goodness.
Do you need me to pick you up so you can start sword fighting with that guy?
His wife is a beautiful and tiny woman who stands over him. Like she's even taller than him.
Man,
so it's wonderful.
Well, before we get to our final rating here and everything, we need to ask ourselves one very important question: is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hello, Mr. Stallone. It's your pal, Sweet Chauncey. I come to you with a question this week. Do you have a time machine sex list? It's a thought experiment I learned recently from a guy at work, and it might be the greatest idea I've heard since manscaping. The rules are as follows. 1, you can go back in time to have sex with anyone you want at the time you choose. 2, you had to have already existed during that time. So you can change bodies with the you of that time with your current body. Also, this ensures that you don't screw up our timeline. So if you're engorged and tingling with the thought of Mary Todd Lincoln, you're out of luck. 3, it's consensual. Anything else would be a horrible crime, which means you can't just show up. You would have to be willing to put in the work, which means you would need to choose wisely. Maybe you're attracted to someone that's an idiot or just a horrible person. That means you would have to be willing to accept this person as is and put in the time and work. So if you're attracted to an idiot, let's say a 21-year-old Axl Rose, that means you need to spend the time with a 21-year-old drunken, stupid Axl Rose. The thing I like most about this thought experiment is that you can't just pick anybody. And Mr. Stallone, I bring this all up because number 3 on my list is 1995 Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
as you might have guessed, I put in a lot of thought into this list, and I know what you're thinking, Mr. Stallone. Why number 3? And I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. I've come up with a system, and this system I've chosen to call SHISSY, which stands for sexy, humor, intelligence, sober, stable, youthfulness. And I'm going to break this down for you also. And we'll use Selma Hayek as the example because she's the reason why we're all here in the first place. Now, her sexiness in 1995 is a full 10 out of 10. That's not even a question. It does not get much hotter than 1995 Selma Hayek. Humor. She's not going to be starting a one-man show on Broadway that revolves around her early days in Mexico, but she can tell a joke, and she has good timing. That puts her at about a 5. Intelligence. Anyone who can speak more than one language fluently has their brain working at a pretty high capacity. So I'm going to give her a 7 there. Sober. And this is a tricky one because for me, you don't want someone who scores a 10 here because for me, I'm someone who drinks occasionally, not often. I'll have the occasional beer or wine when I'm feeling froggy. And I don't want to be tisked by a teetotaling no fun Nick. Mm-hmm. But I also don't want someone who needs to fall down drunk every weekend. And I've experienced this before. And I'm not going to mention any names, but maybe her name rhymes with my schmeck schmeif. And since I haven't heard anything about drugs or booze from Selma Hayek, I'm going to say that she at least holds her own and she's not dealing with the demon in a bottle. Okay. Stable. She's an actress, which deducts 3 points right off the top.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she's not a nightmare on set, so we're going to call that a 5, right? We'll give her a 5 on that one. And finally, youthfulness. Again, this is a mileage may vary category. For me, I'm someone who's about a 6. So she's not always out every night, but because she suffers from hardcore FOMO, I got to get out there. But she's also not turning the house into a fortress that no one may enter. She's not one of those ladies either. So it's for these reasons that Selma Hayek is number 3 on my time travel sex list. Selma Hayek plays Ajak in The Eternals, and she worked with you on the movie Spy Kids 3D, proving yet again that you, Mr. Stallone, are everywhere. And there it is, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is actress and number 3 on my sex time machine list, Selma Hayek. I'll do better next week. Maybe not so much talk about a sexual time machine. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Hey, Chauncey, for me, 1983 Dolly Parton. Go ahead, Adam.
I'm going to say probably, 1999 Jennifer Love Hewitt. That'd be close enough for me. Just following the rules.
Everybody, look, the rules are the most important part to this thing. It's the thing that makes it the most interesting to me.
Because we can all say, Katharine Hepburn, but that's not going to be, it's not going to, no, I'm kidding, of course. Here at Here Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to check that out, head on over to our subreddit, reddit.com/r/Here Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does Eternals fall on the Robin rating system for you?
For me, it's a story of missed opportunity. I really think this could have been cool. I would have loved like a Rogue One ending, not wanting to spoil Rogue One in case people haven't seen it, but I know you guys know what I'm getting at there. Mm-hmm. Also with this cast, I think that would have worked well. I would have liked to have seen them challenge something. I would have liked to have seen people go, wow, this is something I didn't expect from a Marvel movie. And they did deliver something I didn't expect from a Marvel movie, but not in a good way. It's not like you said, Sean, it started off really, I hate to say the same complaint over and over again because I say it so much. It's just too long. But I'm still going to go ahead and say low Damian Wayne.
Sean?
For me, this is a high Damian Wayne. It's almost a Tim Drake. I wouldn't say I enjoyed a lot of it, but the parts that I enjoyed, I did enjoy. The fact that Rob Stark is no longer going to be a presence in this movie or a lack of presence in this movie, it really recommends the future of this. Unfortunately, we're still going to have a good-looking Asian lady. They're going to keep trying to shoehorn her into places where she doesn't fit, and that's not great. That feels kind of Iron Fisty to me. But it's a high Damian Wayne for me.
Well, we're all over the middle because I'm just a straight up Damian Wayne right there in the middle. I didn't hate this movie by any stretch of the imagination, but like I saw it Thursday, first screening with an IMAX audience that was, I'm gonna say 90% full, that entire audience. And while there were a couple of laughs, like there was zero energy in this place, especially from the people who you would imagine paid a premium for this ticket and they are going in wanting to be all in. And I couldn't feel anything coming off the people. That said, this thing's got a fantastic rating with the audience on IMDb and not so much with the critics. I don't even know. And they were talking early on about this movie getting review bombed and everything. Even if that's the case, then like everybody likes this movie. But at the same time, my brain itches and I just go, why does everyone like this movie? Because it's... Like Bruce is absolutely correct. The movie is far too long, but it's also should be longer in as much as this should be a Disney Plus show where we could develop these characters, we could find out who they are and get this great story, but we cram everything in that should have been like a 6 to 8 hour thing into a 2.5 hour thing, and you lose a lot on account of it. And that's why I really think that the streaming for Disney and a lot of Marvel stuff is really going to be the future for this, because you can tell just much more interesting stories over longer periods of time as opposed to cramming all these things in. Because when you look at this, does it really look like it's that much more budget than, say, The Mandalorian? I don't think it looks like that much more money. But
no, but
the talent, man. Yeah. Come on, that's some expensive talent.
Exactly, and that may be part of the problem. Again, get us in with a good story and interesting things. Don't really worry about the talent too awful much. I mean, that stuff works itself out with, hiring the right actors for the roles as opposed to somebody. Well, everyone knows these people from Game of Thrones, so therefore we have to have that. So.
Well, I will say this about this movie that I never got to before, which is that it is very representative. There is a lot of people being represented in this movie, and it doesn't feel like the Burger King Kids Club. It feels more like the Fast and the Furious, where it's not a big deal. And that's that's kind of what I would imagine why a lot of people are like, oh, I like this movie because there's somebody who looks like me in this movie. Like that's going to go a long way these days.
Yeah, and maybe like the Fast and Furious, I'll love the fifth Eternals movie.
Yeah, maybe
it's gonna take 5 films.
Seriously, might be a slow burn where it's like, man, I can't believe I was so cold on this, and now it's my favorite franchise. Who knows?
But again, what solves that? A television show. Where you get to learn who the characters are and understand who, where these people are coming from and everything. It makes it all the much more better.
They call them the Eternals and like 4 of them die. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Sounds like you're kind of gilding the lily there. We'll talk about what we're doing on next week's episode in just a moment here. But Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet? I hear you're doing sketches now.
Oh, man, I'm doing skits. I'm doing sketches, and the public, they love it. They love it. Sean, my sketches, they love it. Mm-hmm. I get comments that say these skits are the best thing ever. Please never stop. So go check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. And you'll see my acting and comedy writing prowess a minute and 30 seconds at a time ahead of my Attack on Titan reviews.
The costume changes alone boggles the mind.
Yes. They're exceptionally well lit.
You can hear the audio that's inside. It's good. Good stuff. Sean, what else?
Occasional ambulance siren going by. Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
You can find us at 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of some very nerdy property. And the next one coming up we have is the Book of Boba Fett.
No, incorrect. No, the next one we got coming out is Hawkeye, and then
Hawkeye. Hawkeye, then Boba.
But if you'd like to hear us talk about Boba Fett, head on over to patreon.com/HMP pre-show, post-show, and on the Dinger Zone we talk about Book of Boba Fett and a couple other things that are coming out and streaming and all that kind of good stuff. So go check out those. And so we have a Star Wars 30 questions and a Marvel 30 questions. Go check them out. Just type in 30 questions, and everyone that you see, just subscribe to that and review it 5 stars, humdingers, all that.
Humdinger.
So that will do it for this episode. Next week, we put it up for a Patreon vote many a time. It's gotten some votes, but never actually won, but we're bringing it on. Son of the Mask. That's right, everybody. We covered Jim Carrey's The Mask way back when on this show, but now we're finally tackling the, some say, superior sequel.
Who is saying that?
Nobody, man.
Literally no one. Not even Jamie Kennedy himself is saying that.
But nevertheless, we will be watching that as currently on HBO Max for those of you that have that, or if you're one of those hardcore Mask fans, and I know that you're out there, crack open that DVD that you got. That's because I know they haven't put it on Blu-ray yet, I'm sure. So break out that Son of Mask on HBO Max and all that.
I've never seen it. Is Walter in Son of Mask? Do you know, Bruce?
I've never seen it.
Is that the dog?
No, Walter is like the guy is like the Mask's arch enemy.
I don't know, but we're gonna learn something, everybody.
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
It's got Loki in it. I don't know for to what measure, but that's how we got. So we're gonna check all that kind of good stuff out.
Alan Cummings is
oh, well, come
Loki in
on.
that.
How do you not love the old Alan?
I know, he's awesome.
That is it, everybody. Join us next week talking Son of the Mask for Sweet Sean's Kovacs for the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Anna Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Taking away the moments that make up a dull day. Fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way. Picking around on a piece of ground in your hometown. Waiting for someone or something to show you the way. Tired of lying in the sunshine, staying home to watch the rain. And you are young and life is long, and there is time to kill today. And then one day you find 10 years have gone behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. The song is over. Thought I'd something more to say.